Hello and welcome to another Cigar Box Guitar lesson from Code of Tuition. So 4 strings today. Did a few of these last year, and this is pretty close to what you're used to. I imagine what you're used to, which is G-D-G tuning. So this has got an extra B on top. So G, D, G, B. So it just gives you a little bit more versatility. Great for playing chords. So this was, of course, Love in Vain by the Stones, or rather it's their cover of the Robert Johnson original. So for those of us who haven't had a particular transaction at a crossroads, I reckon Robert Johnson tunes are quite tricky to play. So the Rolling Stones one's probably more well known, and also it's a little bit easier as well, I think. So I've chosen this one. Still sounds great though. It's really nice chord sequence. So I was being a little bit on the twiddly side there, just sort of giving it a bit of life. But we're going to do an easier version. Just go through the basic chords, so you can even strum them. This is the same key as the original, so you can completely play along with the Stones version. So you can just strum the chords, or you can do sort of a basic sort of picking pattern along and keep it quite simple, and just follow the sequence. And it's a 12-bar blues, so it just repeats all the way through that until the end of the song. So it's quite a nice one to play. And quick plug, I did a beginner course which was just dropped about 3 weeks ago. So fantastic, 14 hours worth of video tuition. So Flatpick, Fingerstyle, it's all for 3-string G-D-G tuning, covering blues, classic rock, country, and everything in between. And if you want to check the link and you can see what's available on the site, there's a few different options. There's some slightly shorter and slightly cheaper ones, but yes, much appreciated if you give that a browse. And let's get straight on with having a crack at Love in Vain. So here are the tuning notes. So we've got low G, and string 3 is a D, and string 2 is another G, high G, and then string 4, so this is like the new one if you're used to 3-string, that's a B. Okay, so let's just have a go through some of the chord shapes. So this is really all about chord shapes, this particular version of Love in Vain by the Stones. So we're going to start with a D. So the whole thing's in the key of G, same key as the original, so you can jam along with the boys when you've learnt it. Bar, that's a B chord, so you're barring across all 4 strings there. Sorry, a D chord, fret 7. And then I'll go through the first few chords. This is an E minor, and we'll look at what we're doing in terms of the picking afterwards. So in this tuning, E minor's fret 4 on the bass string, fret 2 on the 3rd string, and then try and let open a G and B ring through. That is an E minor. This is a C. So that's fret 1 on the high string, high B. That's fret 2 on the 3rd string, which is the D string, and then open low G, open G. So you're going from B to E minor to C. Now you've got to get a really good bridge going here. So you've got to curl your fingers right round so that you're not catching the strings, and that's the opposite, that's completely flat. So make sure that you can sort of curl your fingers around and bridge for these chords, because you are going to be playing the single notes, so you really want to try your best to hear all 4 strings. G, that is a G, we're on G next, but because we want to pick out the high note, we can actually go up here and we can play frets 7 and 8 on the top 2 strings. So that's a G, and we can go to frets 7 and 6, and that is a G7. And then we finish back on D. So that's basically the introduction chords, and I'll go through the timing in a moment. There's a particular sort of triplet rhythm which we can use in the picking, but effectively we can just do 4 strums to start with on D, and then we can do 2 on E minor, 2 on C, and then let's go back up to here for G, so that's 7 and 8, and then G7, and then back to D for 4 strums again. So I'm going to cover the picking now, but to be honest, I would be tempted to say try have a go at this with the intro, but then I would be tempted to say when we do the verse, maybe just strum through to make sure you get all of the chord changes before, because like using both hands can be quite difficult coordination wise. So what we're going to do is basically pick all of the strings in sequence. So this is 4 3 2 1 2 3. Now that's 2 triplets, 1 2 3 da, da, da. Doing it twice, so it's very much a triplet rhythm. Sometimes people will call it a 12/8 rhythm, which is a quite typical sort of blues rhythm. And I'm personally using fingers, thumb on the bass, index, and then middle on string 2, and then ring finger on string 1. So it's thumb, index, middle, ring, and then middle, index. Now you can even just practice that on the open strings just to get your picking working. For 3-string pickers, we generally only use thumb, index, middle. So if it seems a bit weird bringing your ring finger in, you could go thumb, thumb on the 2 bass. You could go thumb, thumb, and then index, middle, index, thumb, 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 index, middle. So potentially try both of those out, but then choose one and stick to it. Don't mix it up. Try and you want to basically learn how to do this so you can kind of switch off from it, so you can focus on the chord changes. So going up and down the chord is actually 2 beats, because it's a triplet rhythm. So we've got the first 3 notes is beat 1, the next 3 notes is beat 2. So I can do that twice on D, but I can only do it up and down on E minor once, and then once on C, and then up and down once on the high G, up and down once on the G7, and then back to twice on the D, and that is the intro. So we've got beat 1, 2, 3, 4, then 1, 2, and then 3, 4, and then 1, 2, 3, 4, and back to D. So that is the introduction. So the intro is instrumental. The verse, Mick starts singing, and it is a 12-bar blues once you start singing. So we have 4 bars of G, or rather it's split. So we've got 2 bars of G. We can do this high one again, and then we can do 2 bars of G7. So that was 7 and 8 on the top 2 for G, 6 and 7 again. Watch your bridging for G7. Now you can play C down here. You can even do a bar at fret 5. that's also a C, so you can see which one you prefer the sound of. And then we just do the C for one bar, so that's bar number 5 or measure number 5 in the verse 12 bar cycle. But then we go to D7, finger 1 at fret 1 of the string 1, and then fret 2 with my 3rd finger, and then 2nd finger fret 2. So that is a D7. If we try some of the twiddles a little bit later, we can actually do a little hammer on there. So that's quite a nice one to use. So you can either play your C here just in the bar before, or you can even play your C there, and then might be easier, hold your 1st finger in place and then go to a D7, back to a G. I'm going to keep going for the high G. I think it works quite nicely in this song. And then there's a D halfway through, and then it goes back to G, and then there's a brief what you call suspended. So you can put this in, it's not too difficult. So we can play the G open, and then we can go for fret 8 and fret 10. So that's on string 1, that's on string 3, and then back to G there, or even back to the open. So that is the first 8 bars. So I'm just gonna strum through just so you can map it out. So it's like 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going a little bit faster here. The 2nd bar of G, or play the high G up there, and then let's do the G7 for 2 bars. So this is now the 4th bar, the 4th measure. Go to C for 4 beats, 1 measure. There's the D7, and then back to G, D. So the G and the D are just 2 beats each. So 2 beats, 2 beats, and then G, sus, G. So that final bar that we've covered is a bit funny. So it's G for 1 beat, the sus 4's on the 2nd beat, and then back to a G. And then we go to D. So we can play the D up here, fret 7 bar. And incidentally, there is a chord dictionary, sort of chord reference sheet available, which I will put a link to on the site. So for this one, instead of using fingers 1, 2, 3, you could use fingers 2, 3, 4. So that's fret 3, fret 2, fret 2, because then you can switch from this D to that D7. And you do that for two beats on D, 2 beats on D7, and then you go to E minor only for 2 beats, and then C for 2 beats, and then G for 2 beats. So all of a sudden we're changing chords pretty quickly, and then finish on D. So the last 4 bars are a little bit more complicated in that you're just changing chords more quickly. So we've got D7 for 2 beats, sorry, that's D for 2 beats, then we go to D7 for 2 beats, and then we can go to E minor, so fret 4, fret 2, open high strings, and then we can go to C, and then let's go for a high G, and then a G7, and then just to finish off we're going to go back to the bar D for 4 strums, and that is the 12th bar. So I would definitely make sure that you can play all of those chords and, you know, sort of roughly change in time before trying to add in the picking. But when you're ready, again, I'm going to use thumb, index, middle, ring, middle, index. Okay, so verse 3, 4, verse. that's beat 3, that's beat 4, go for a high G. This is the second bar of G, beat 3, and then I'll go for G7, that's the second, beat 3, 4, second bar of G7, and then beat 3 and beat 4. Let's go for C. So that's beat 3 and beat 4, and then D7, that's beat 3, beat 4. Let's go for high G. Change quickly to D, and then G, sus, G. It's a bit funny that. And then D, different finger in D7, and then E minor and C, and let's go for the high G and the G7, and then back to D for a whole bar at the end. So we'll go around that one more time, but it's quite difficult doing the sus4 bit halfway through. So just prior to that it was G for 2 beats, and then it's D for 2 beats, and then it's 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3. Do that again. G, sus4, high G. Alright, so one more time from the beginning of the verse. So 3, 4, G. That's the first bar. Let's go high for G. This is the second bar. Let's go for a G7. That's the first bar of G7. It's a little bit faster than this, obviously. And then it goes to C. Then it goes to D7. That's for a whole bar as well. Let's go back up to high G, and we'll do a bar at D. And here's the tricky bit, open G, sus4, high. And then let's go for D down here to D7, and then E minor to C, and then back to G, G7, and it starts again. Right at the end of the song, instead of the very last chord, instead of going to D there, so here's the G and the G7 just before, let's go down to D7 and then finish up on a high G7. So that's how you finish the whole thing. So instead of going for 4 beats to the barred D at fret 7, you go right. Don't do any of this until you've completed the previous 2 stages, which was, you know, strumming and changing in time, and then picking and changing in time. But some of the nice little kind of soulful bluesy licks, particularly good one is off the C. So that is holding this C shape down, hammering on, and then hammering on, so that's on the 3rd string, and hammering on the 2nd string, and then maybe plucking the top 2 afterwards. So plucking with your thumb, plucking the top 2 with your fingers, pluck, and then, so that's hammer on the 3rd string, hammer on the 2nd, and then pluck the top 2, and then back to the 3rd string again. Now he actually adds an extra beat in. He actually does that twice in the intro, so you can do that if you want. And just prior to that, there's an E minor. So we've been playing E minor down here up until now, but you can do one up here. It's a bit of a horrible shape if you do all 4 strings, which is fret 9, 9, 9, 8, 8 on the high string. That's a major, that's a minor where we knock it down to fret 8. But instead of doing that, we can actually have an open G. So we could, so that's 9, 9, open 2nd string and fret 8. But we can do a nice little lick there, so that's 9. So it's based around the E minor, but actually it's more of a single note thing. And then sliding up from 7 to 9 on the 3rd string, coming straight in with 8 on the top string, and then slide back to 7, 5, that's on the 3rd string, and then finally land on the 4th string. Start on the 4th string, slide up from 7 to 9, 3rd string, 8 on the top string, back to 7, slide down 5, and then into C. And like I said, he does that final hammer on twice, so it's kind of adding an extra beat in, just for the introduction. So we're going to have a look at all of the intro, adding those nice little licks in for the E minor and the C, but we're going to do a staggered rhythm to start with for the D. So it's long, short, regular, do that twice, long, short, regular, lick on E, C, G, G7, and then D. It's into the verse. So in the verse, not really a lot's happening for the first 4 bars. I was kind of using some sort of major pentatonic notes. Again, check out Hideaway, because the major pentatonic scale is covered in that one. Even though it's on 3 string, the bottom 3 strings are the same. But I'm going to leave that. You go to C in bar 5, and then you go to D7. We can So in the verse, not really a lot happens for the first 2 bars over G. So you can, play a low G, play a high G just to break it up a little bit. When you're on G7 though, you can, so from fret 8, we can do that. So you might want to use different fingers if that's a bit of a stretch. But basically that's dropping down to fret 5 and back up again. So it just adds a bit of variation in. So what I might do is put that in the 4th bar. So this is the 3rd bar of G7, and then C. So that was bars 3 and 4. I'm going to do a run through in a moment. Just play the C normally for a full bar, so that's bar number 5. When you go to D7, which is bar 6, we can do a hammer on from open string 1 onto fret 1. So we can go So when you pluck string 1, you basically do a hammer on. So you actually pluck the open string, and then your left hand or your fretting hand goes quickly down, and then going up to G and D, that's the same. The sus4, we were putting that in anyway, to be honest, and so I would be tempted to keep it all pretty similar after that. You could maybe do an E minor up here if you wanted, or you can just do an E minor down there. So that's in bar number 10. But we're gonna, when we go to the C, we can do that nice lick again that we had in the intro, but don't do the extra beat at the end. So when you hit the C, it's just, and then so from E minor, 1, 2, 5, 6, then. So that's exactly the same as the intro, but we just clipped it to keep it in time. So it's exactly 2 beats. And then we've got the G and G7 and D. So same as what we were doing previously. So here's the verse with the full extra riffs and things in. So 3, 4, G. So I'm just going to keep it nice and plain here, and then go to a high G, and then G7. To C. Then D7, do the hammer-ons, and then up to high G, change to D, and then let's do the sus4, then D, D7, I might go for a high E minor, and then G to G7, and then D. Or if I wanted to finish off, here's the 11th bar, here's the 12th bar, D7, 1, 3, 5, into G7. And that concludes Love in Vain.